Good afternoon. Welcome. Welcome to Newport, and welcome to another great Defense Innovation Days kickoff. My name's Tim Daljudas. I'm a Strategic Initiatives Program Manager at Raytheon Integrated Defense Systems, just up the road here in Portsmouth. Excuse me. And I'm currently the Board of Directors Chair for SENEDIA. Again, I'd like to thank you all for coming and being here for our 4th annual Defense Innovation Days. We have planned 3 days of great talks from industry leaders, Department of Defense leaders, congressional leaders. I hope you're all going to be here and enjoy the time. You're going to find a lot of great new information, identify some new ideas, some problems, and maybe even some solutions. You'll look forward to making some new relationships. If you have an opportunity, if you haven't already, please visit all the booths. There's a lot of great technology, great companies out here, and a lot of great information. I'd like to take a minute and just recognize some of our distinguished guests that have joined us tonight without breaking anything. Not sure what that is. Anyway, we have Senator Jack Reed, obviously, Senator Reed, Congressman Jim Langevin, Vice Admiral Gilday, Christopher Bazzacco, representing Congressman Cicilline, State Senator Lou DePalma, State Representative Stephen Ucci, State Representative Deborah Girio, Kasim Yarn from the Rhode Island Department of Veterans Affairs, Captain Coughlin from Division Newport, and across of all Newark, rather. And Scott Jensen from the Rhode Island Department of Labor. As most of you know, SENEDIA is the catalyst for thought leadership, innovation in undersea technology, cybersecurity, and other critical defense technologies. We formed SENEDIA back in 2002 to identify and champion, coordinate initiatives that contribute to our national security and the region's economy. Our members are defense-oriented companies and organizations, primarily made up of companies from Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts, although we do have a number of companies from outside southern New England, and that's a trend we're continuing to see grow. We work together on the overall defense economy of the region through collaboration, education, communication, and of course, healthy competition. One of SENEDIA's focus areas has always been workforce development. And as I had mentioned, we're joined tonight by Scott Jensen, who is one of Governor Raimondo's first hires. Scott leads the Rhode Island Department of Labor and Training, and they've been a true partner to SENEDIA in our growth. So thank you very much, Scott. The Rhode Island Department of Labor and Training, not only through their Real Jobs Rhode Island initiatives, which provides the resources for the SENEDIA-led cybersecurity internship program, which we started just a couple of years ago, we've now put 63 students through that program. Almost all of them are in full-time cyber-related jobs here in Rhode Island. We're using that model, and we launched an undersea engineering program this year, and we're starting that pipeline and filling young people through that as well. So we hope that will copy that same success. Following along in the education line, we're also joined tonight by our Wave Maker Fellows, which is a tuition forgiveness program run by the state of Rhode Island for Rhode Island residents who've majored in a STEM field and then returned to Rhode Island for their employment. So we've got several of the Wave Maker Fellows that are here, and actually we're going to step forward and do a quick photo if we could. Senator Reed, if you join the Wave Makers for a minute, please. I'd like to thank them all for being here. Thank you. Also, somewhere here tonight, we're joined by 2 gentlemen from the Community College of Rhode Island, John Mowry and Mike Kelly. They lead the Cybersecurity Associate's Degree program, which is a new program that CCRI started last year in collaboration with SENEDIA. We worked together to develop the curriculum to make sure that the students were learning what industry needs and wants, not what the school felt was important. And we're able to put it together so now the school knows it's important, and we've put that great program together. Last year, the first student walked and received his degree. This year, there are 80 students enrolled in the program. So it's another great success program that we've run. And staying on the topic of education and students, I'd like to invite Joe Marino, the CEO of Right Solutions, to step forward. Joe leads our Workforce Development Committee to talk about a couple of scholarships that we're doing. Joe?
Thank you, Tim. I have the privilege of sharing the podium today with Senator Reid to honor the recent recipients of this year's SENEDIA Scholarship Awards. And parents, by honor, I mean give them money. So, just so we're clear on that. This year we had 21 applicants apply for 2 scholarships that we have. That's a record for us. And so it goes to the 2 people who were the recipients tonight, that not only did they win these awards, but they actually competed in the largest field that we've ever had for those scholarships. So congratulations. I'm going to give a short bio on each of the individuals here, 2 individuals, and then invite them up to the podium for their checks. The first one is Michael Galeska. He's from Bristol, Rhode Island. He's at the University of Rhode Island studying mechanical engineering. And I want to take an excerpt from his essay that he wrote, a short excerpt from the essay. Each of the applicants had to provide an essay. And here's what Michael had to say. My grandfathers both served in the military, and my parents both work in the defense industry. Working for the Navy would allow my work to have meaning. I seek a career where I can not only solve interesting problems, but would contribute to the defense of our country. I feel that working in the defense industry gives my work consequence. So, Michael, we'd love to have you as part of the defense infrastructure. Thank you. The next candidate is Asha Shenpeng, and she's from Hartford, Connecticut. She attends Northeastern University and is majoring in electrical engineering. And here's what Asha had to say as part of her essay. I think you'll find it inspiring. Where I reside, not many youths are encouraged to strive for excellence in STEM. In fact, there are a limited number of students who strive to pursue higher education at all. I want to challenge these norms and avoid being complacent with the lifestyle I see around me constantly. I'm determined to prove to those around me how capable I am of achieving everything I've set out to accomplish. And I can say from the Scholarship Selection Committee that that young lady is well on her way to achieving her goals. So I'd like to invite both Michael and Asha up to the podium now to receive your checks.
Thank you, Michael.
Congratulations, Michael.
Next, I'd like to invite up my old boss, Congressman Jim Langevin from Rhode Island's 2nd Congressional District. We'll do the formal introduction tomorrow. He'll be our keynote speaker at our lunch session. But in the meantime, the Congressman was here tonight if you did want to bring greetings. So if I do this without breaking it, there we go. Congressman Jim Langevin.
Tim, great to be with you tonight. Thanks for the kind words, the introduction, and good evening, everyone. I'm honored to be here with our senior senator and Jack Reid, and the ranking member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. I know that you're going to be hearing from him in just a few minutes, but we're all proud of Jack's leadership in the Senate, respected both not only here in Rhode Island, but in the United States Senate and throughout the country on defense issues, as well as many others. And I hope you'll join me in a round of applause for Senator Reid and thank for his leadership. I'd also like to welcome all of my other colleagues in government here today, both from local and state government. And but most especially, I want to thank you all for coming out and giving us such a great crowd for Defense Innovation Days, SENEDIA's Defense Innovation Days 2017, the fourth year that SENEDIA has run Defense Innovation Days, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger every year. I want to recognize and thank Tim DelGiudice, the chair of SENEDIA, for his outstanding work. Tim and Molly McGee, as well as the board of directors of SENEDIA, thank you all for your leadership in coordinating Rhode Island's defense industry and the defense industry really throughout New England, and promoting the great products, the services, capabilities that you all produce. I know that it's going to be an exciting conference. I also want to welcome Admiral Gilday here from Navy 10th Fleet. He and I share a passion for cyber, and look forward to hearing from him later on as well. But I know that around the room here we have some amazing companies. There's no shortages of challenges that our country faces right now, whether it's in cybersecurity or in the undersea domain, and in many, many others. Thankfully for the men and women in uniform who serve our great nation, and also because of the great men and women who go to work every day, companies that you all represent here and throughout the country, we all build some amazing capabilities that keep our warfighters safe and effective and never send them into a fair fight. So I know we're going to hear from a lot of interesting speakers over the next couple of days, and I just want to thank you all again for being here and for what you do. It's going to be an exciting conference. I look forward to speaking with you tomorrow on cyber and many other things. But the fact that you're here speaks volumes about how much you believe in our nation's defense, and I thank you for what you're doing. Great to be with you.
Thank you, Congressman. So, still working? All right, great. So as I mentioned, Congressman Langevin was my old boss. My new boss is next. Next up, Paul Ferraro, Vice President, Raytheon Integrated Defense, Sea Power Business. Thank you. Paul?
Thanks, Tim. And thank you to SENEDIA for once again hosting this unique forum for the Southeastern New England defense and national security community. Every year, Defense Innovation Days provides us with an outstanding opportunity to engage with our government leaders and industry peers, to discuss opportunities to raise the bar of innovation, to work together to further America's advantage over our global threats. Represented here today are small businesses, research and educational institutions, large industry and government entities, all of whom play a vital role in maintaining our nation's military and technological superiority. Collaborations in forums like this build and foster public-private partnerships that bolster our nation's security, benefit taxpayers and the economy, and advance technologies and solutions to solve our customers and our country's most pressing problems, in particular, maritime threats and threats in cybersecurity. For our part, Raytheon is proud to have been a part of the Rhode Island community for more than 60 years, dating back to our sub-sig days following World War II. Today in Portsmouth remains the headquarters of our global sea power business, supporting critical next-generation capabilities such as those aboard the DDG-1000 Zumwalt-class destroyer, the Spy-6 integrated air and missile defense system, and a growing portfolio of undersea capabilities and technologies. Now, we all know that Rhode Island is the smallest state, but our contributions to national security exponentially outsize our geographic footprint. As has been true for generations, the ocean state continues to make waves felt around the world that are disproportionate in size relative to their point of origin. In no place is this truer than in Washington, D.C., thanks to leaders like the one I have the honor of introducing in a moment, Senator Jack Reed. Senator Reed has been instrumental in facilitating partnerships and collaboration between government and the private sector. He works tirelessly to ensure the voices and concerns of Rhode Islanders and Rhode Island businesses are heard and respected as part of our national dialogue. Senator Reed's ubiquitous respect on both sides of the aisle is a testament to his focus on policy over politics and to the measured voice of reason he contributes to what is often a contentious legislative process. As a leader of the Senate Armed Services and Appropriations Committees, Senator Reed's effective advocacy for the defense and prosperity of our nation will undoubtedly leave Rhode Island and the United States stronger for many generations. Senator Reid, on behalf of SENEDIA and my colleagues, I'd like to commend you for the work that you do, not just to your constituents, but for our nation. Thank you for your leadership and service. And now please welcome me and join me in welcoming Senator Jack Reid.
Thank you very much, Paul. Not only for that very kind introduction, but for your great leadership at Raytheon. Raytheon is one of the platinum sponsors here. They do a terrific job in Portsmouth and throughout the nation. Also want to recognize the folks at General Dynamics, who are another platinum sponsor, along with many other companies that are here. And both Sean Davies and Jeff Geiger do a superb job over at Quonset Point and Groton. So thank you all very much. I could not leave here without recognizing Molly McGee. Molly is really one of the inspirations for SENEDIA, and also Tim Geldudis, who is a superb organizer and leader. And this is the 4th year, and every year it seems to get bigger and better, and this year is no exception. So thank you, Molly. Thanks, Tim. Thanks for everyone here. The next 2 days will be a great opportunity to see some of the key leaders in the Department of Defense, but also to, as they used to say, talk amongst yourselves about your developments, your progress, the common issues that you face in trying to innovate, to develop new solutions, both in terms of hardware and services for the men and women of our armed forces. And I know ultimately your dedication is not just to your job, but to the men and women who use your equipment and your technologies to defend the nation. And for that, I thank you. Let me give you a brief update of where we stand in the Senate on some of the key issues. First, in June, I worked very closely with Senator John McCain to get an authorization bill through the committee. The bill was unanimously supported because of his leadership more than anything else and his vision. When he returns in September, and I have no doubt he will return in September, because when you look in the dictionary for definition of hero and tough, it's a picture of John McCain. So he will be back, and we will work very diligently together to try to move the authorization bill through the Senate and then get to the conference with the House of Representatives. Now, the other hat I wear is on the Appropriations Subcommittee for Defense. There we have some challenges, which is the Budget Control Act. We have to work out a solution to the Budget Control Act. Otherwise, whatever we authorize won't be adequately funded in any capacity of the federal government. And I think that solution has to be balanced. So much of what we do is not just national security, but calls on many other agencies of the federal government, like Homeland Security, FBI, et cetera. So we're going to have to do that. I think, unfortunately, however, because of the timing, we will probably begin the next fiscal year with a continuing resolution. The question is, and I hope it's resolved to a very, very short continuing resolution so that we can have fully appropriated and authorized programs for the national defense. One of the major reasons for that is that we face, and I don't have to tell anyone here, a very complicated world. We find near-peer competition from China and Russia. We have rogue state behavior from North Korea. Terrorist groups like ISIS and even the lone wolf individuals have been causing harm throughout the world. Indeed, even global politics and economics are causing unprecedented developments. Brexit is evolving, and I don't think anyone quite knows how it will evolve, but it'll have an impact on our international economic arrangements. And while we've been fighting extensively for 16 years in Afghanistan and Iraq, our near-peer competitors have been studying our capabilities, and studying is a very diplomatic word for it. They've been rapidly investing in modernization. They are developing greatly improved navies, aircraft, munitions, and our long-held technological edge has been diminished, frankly. So what you're doing today with technology innovation is absolutely critical, because we just don't want to maintain that edge. We want to grow that edge, because in many respects, that's the greatest deterrence we have, the knowledge that we have the men and women and technology to defeat anyone who challenges us. Now, with all the uncertainty I've described in the budgetary process, we will rely even more and more upon your innovation, not only just the technology, but the way you get it to the services, to get it to the fleet, get it to the Army, get it to the Marine Corps, get it to the Air Force. And one of the most important aspects of this, and I'm telling you something you already know, is people. Making sure you have the most talented people, that we have them in uniform in your organizations and also in our government laboratories and research centers. And over the years, the Armed Services Committee, on a bipartisan basis, has tried to make those defense laboratories and other entities capable, because we know that they have to get the best technology talent, science and engineering. In 2009, in our Defense Authorization Act, we created a series of rapid hiring priorities for the defense laboratories, which would allow them to go out and get the very best and most talented people they could find. And then we also authorized the Science, Mathematics, and Research for Transformation, or SMART, Scholarship for Service program that DoD labs have been using now for over 10 years. And to date, DoD has awarded over 2,000 SMART scholarships, and most of these have led to continuing employment at the laboratories. And you've seen it today with these young men and women. But also in your own companies, I know you've been searching and reaching out for the talent and the ingenuity that you need to get the job done. I think we have to do even more, though, to stimulate our activities with respect to the people side of the equation. And an important step is the general step of making more investments in basic research in different capacities of the federal government, because that's what brings in the talented scientists, and that's what gives those young people the incentives to stay on, to do the research, to get the tenure in academic institutions. We on the Appropriations Committee have always been committed to increasing funding for these basic research programs, and we do have to continue doing that. And it cuts across the gamut, from NIH to the National Science Foundation to many different agencies that provide that pool of talent, which in many cases will move into private industry or will stay in academic or laboratory environments. The other thing we have to look at, and I'm sure this will come as, again, as no surprise, is we have to look at the process by which we do security clearances. We can't sacrifice our standards, but we have to find a way to do it much more efficiently. And that's something that is a challenge to all of us, and we're looking at it very closely. And in addition, when you talk about people, you can't start with someone who's 21 years old and suddenly say, you should be a scientist. You have to start with someone who's about 4 or 5 years old and say, you should be a scientist, or maybe just as importantly, a machinist. So we have to emphasize STEM programs in our education. Very interestingly, DoD has a program which they use to support schools that have a significant DoD population. And just a few months ago, I was in Middletown, Rhode Island, where they took part in the National Math and Science Initiative, which is supported in part by DoD. And it's amazing. A lot of these young men and women, these kids, I can use the term I think for a middle school, are dependent at Naval Station Newport and other naval facilities. The results were remarkable. 30% increase in the number of students taking and passing advanced placement in math, science, and engineering, and a remarkable 100% increase in passing scores for minority students. If we can do it in Middletown, we can do it everywhere, and frankly, for the sake of the country, we have to do it everywhere. But that's just one example. And we're still doing efforts to try to keep the K-12 process providing the kind of talent that you will need when they emerge from college and post-college degrees. In Rhode Island, we have been very successful with innovation, and that's because of so many people in this room. We're very proud of Newark. The laboratory has done extraordinary work in undersea capabilities, and they're more critical than ever. As I went from table to table, what you're doing in terms of undersea technology and platform is exactly the response we need, and we need it very quickly, to some of the threats we face globally. Newark has been testing new anti-submarine warfare functions performed by sonar sensors. They've developed new combat control systems. They've been working closely with the Australian Navy to provide help to our allies who help us in the Pacific. It's also working with DARPA for the Blue Wolf project to increase endurance and travel distance of our heavyweight torpedoes. And those unique facilities at Newark provide the intellectual support for our Navy, both today and tomorrow. So I salute them. It's a great innovation center. And it's also a great economic force here in Rhode Island. Over 3,000 workers, also generating the kind of interest and the kind of private employment that's so critical to not just Newport and Rhode Island, but all of southern New England. We also have, and I've talked to many people in this room who are reaching out to our universities, the University of Rhode Island, the Oceanography School, Roger Williams University, I could go on and on and on. Brown University just received the DARPA Award. They'll be a major participant in a $65 million effort to develop implants that will make it possible for the human brain to directly interface with a computer, which could lead to prosthetic devices for wounded warriors that could act almost like a organic arm, and also new therapies for trauma. That's another aspect which is so important. And again, over the years, I've worked with Senator Whitehouse, Congressman Langevin, Congressman Cicilline to increase funding for these efforts. At DARPA, Small Business Innovation Research Program, another example that's been very, very effective. And now we're embarking on several different approaches. I know you'll have a presentation from a representative from DIUX, which is Ash Carter's initiative to enlist Silicon Valley. We also have the DoD Strategic Capabilities Office. We've sat down with them. They're doing some very innovative things. In fact, last Friday I was up at Lincoln Labs and had an opportunity to see their collaboration. They have an amazing fleet of swarm drones. That's my Rhode Island accent. If there's an A in the word, it comes out, yeah, swarm drones. Amazing. Hundreds of tiny little drones that they can go ahead and on command assemble from every different direction that can do kinetic. They were very unclear exactly what it does. It's still classified, but kinetic and other types of activities. It's the future. And they're doing it with DARPA, with Brown, and with many other universities. But as I mentioned before, it's not just the traditional DoD agencies. It's the National Science Foundation. It's the Department of Energy. They are doing so much that is we depend upon. Our ballistic missile fleet, we're awful proud that General Dynamics is building the new Columbia class, but those warheads are going to have to be developed by the Department of Energy, and so we have to maintain that infrastructure also. And then, of course, NASA is another agency working on hypersonics, wind tunnels, and satellites. All of them are critical to research, development, and product technology. We are also trying on the committee, and again, I must salute Senator McCain, because this has been something that he has been committed to. And when you say committed in John, it's more than commitment. That's acquisition reform. We have, over the last few years, tried to, we think and we hope, redesign acquisition so it's more functional. This is particularly true when it comes to the basic research. When Joe Marino and I, our high school classmates, were in high school in the 60s, the government was the big source of research in these areas. In the 1960s, we outspent industry 2-to-1 in this type of research. Today, the industry is outspending us by 3-to-1. So we have to get into that cycle. But more importantly, they're doing it much faster, particularly when it comes to software. They're designing things in Silicon Valley that'll be obsolete in months. We, and I don't have to tell you, design things because of programmatic requirements, contract requirements, etc., that might be obsolete in 3 months, but they won't be deployed for 3 years. And that's a sad commentary. We have to fix that. We're trying. And it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to be, frankly, trial and error, but we have to get it done. So it's a question of trying to incentivize industry to try to get commercialized products into our system faster. It's collaborating, it's doing all those things. And it has to be faster because commercial is faster and our adversaries are getting faster. So we're committed to doing this. One of the things we did is we created a streamlined GSA-like schedule through which DoD can access the great talent expertise of universities as well as breakthrough technologies that private companies might have. So this is all absolutely critical. And in addition to people, in addition to acquisition reform, there is also the basic issue of the industrial base, and I'm looking at a large part of it right now as I speak. We have been strong supporters on a bipartisan basis of the National Network of Manufacturing Institutes. It was interesting as I walked around and talked to some people about sub-suppliers. A lot of our supply base went dormant because we were not building new torpedoes, we were not building new types of platforms, and now we have to revive our industrial base, our small suppliers. And we have to do that in all sorts of fields. One field is textiles. I know there's some participants who are working on textiles, but we have a effort that we hope will create and help organizations create fabrics that can sense, communicate, store energy, change color, and do a lot more. In fact, RISD and Fab Newport and many other companies are involved in this effort, but it's critically important. We have to look at every way we can to accelerate our efforts and to ensure that our industrial base remains strong, in fact, even gets a little bit stronger. Well, we've got a lot of work to do, but what gives me great confidence as I look around is we have the people assembled here that will do that work. And as I said initially, this is not just for everyone in this room a job, because you realize, and it shows in your dedication, that ultimately it's about the safety, the security, and the effectiveness of young men and women who wear the uniform in the United States. And there's no greater calling than those young men and women have, and there's no greater service than what you do to give them the best. Again, our simple rule is we never want to be in a fair fight. So thank you very, very much.
So, Senator, thank you very much for your remarks, and again, thank you for your service to Rhode Island and certainly to our nation. And on behalf of SENEDIA, I'd like to present you with the famous SENEDIA coin.
Oh my God, thank you.
How about that, sir?
I'm impressed. Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.